Greetings, all. Hey, how's it going? It's Mike Brock here again from Notes from the Circus. We're broadcasting on this Sunday. It's still afternoon here on the West Coast. I know you're watching from the more easterly time zones of the United States. Then this is somewhat into your evening, and so good evening to you. We did a we did like a really philosophical Substack live yesterday, and I promised you guys I would return to some commentary on current events for Sunday. There was one question that someone sent to me that I might get to today. I might not, or I might just like dedicate another Substack live to, which is sort of the question of neoconservatism. What is neoconservatism? It's certainly on some people's minds, like given the passing of former Vice President Dick Cheney, who is often sort of the the figure who's often most associated with sort of neoconservatism. Project for the American Century, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see if I have the stamina to get to that. But I want to talk about like current events, how things are evolving. We had I haven't really spoken about. I didn't speak about yesterday the Mamdani's visit to the Oval Office. That was quite something. I mean, for anyone who saw it, and not the least me. I don't know how to put it, but I would say I was when I would tell people what my reaction was, I would say that I was existentially amused by Mamdani's interactions with Trump. We'll talk about that. We'll get into that. What my thoughts are. And Mamdani has said some things publicly since then that I think is really instructive, and I think confirms my analysis. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thinking about the current situation, and how I think about current events, it's kind of like a weird thing to talk about right now. I mean, my top level, someone is noticing. I'm looking at the chat that I'm not wearing a hoodie. I'm not wearing a hoodie right now, guys. No, it's warm and toasty in here right now. I turned the heat on. It's been chilly in LA, so I mean, it was although I think it's like warm-ish today. It's 68 Fahrenheit outside. So my top level thought on where we are is, I mean, I think we're watching the collapse of of Donald Trump. I strongly like believe that to be the case. I think when you sort of take on all of the various sort of things one might look for when trying to determine the political trajectory of him in his position as president of the United States, it's sort of overwhelming how much political power he's lost and is in the process of losing, in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of the American public, which is demonstrated by polling data, which suggests that the bottom is starting to fall out for him in terms of popular support. But even more fatally, and this sort of gets to the whole affair with like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the various sort of factional infighting inside the MAGA base, the Epstein scandal, which like is continues to simmer up to a boil. I mean, it's hard to see how Donald Trump survives this, and I'm going to give you my theory on why I think he's not going to survive this. Now, obviously, this is a very dangerous political prediction to make for many reasons, because, people will be sitting here thinking, Mike, we've heard this before. Do you remember the first Trump impeachment and the second Trump impeachment after January 6th? There's no way. People will say to me, they'll be like, Mike, it'll be a cold day in hell until until the necessary votes are apprehended to remove Donald Trump from office. I'm not so sure about that, and I'll tell you why. It will give you some insights into how I look at politics, and how I think people should look at politics, right? Which is with a healthy understanding of human nature, healthy understanding of information, of epistemics, media, being literate about media, understanding how it works, how propaganda works, how different parts of the political economy function, and looking at these things, right? Economists like to say incentives matter. I agree. And so from there we will start our analysis of why I think this is the beginning of the end, if not somewhat into the end of Donald Trump. And then I'll talk about what I think that means in terms of the bigger question about the survival of our democracy. The people that would replace him as leader of the Republican Party. There are some obvious candidates with some very, very troubling ideological and attendant interests associated with them. We can explore some of that. We'll see how much we can get through in this hour, and then maybe we'll come back and talk about neoconservatism. That's a fun discussion. That's a more philosophical discussion. Okay, so Donald Trump is in the process of collapsing. I mean, he's staring down a Fox News approval poll, and I'm picking Fox News here because it's, it's the one that you have to think the people on the right are scared of, because it's the one that you get it right. He's at 60% disapproval. That's high. That's really high. That's like I mean, it's unsustainably high. And you now have, I expose myself to MAGA Twitter, MAGA X, I should say, and to right-wing news sources. I do this so you don't have to. I'm joking. I mean, you can do it, or other people do this as well. But I mean, it's pretty clear that the shine has worn off Donald Trump, like writ large within the MAGA movement. It's pretty clear that costs, the impact of tariffs, particularly in, the agricultural sector, it's pretty clear that that people are starting to feel the impact of the Obamacare subsidies being rolled back by the Republicans in the big beautiful bill. And I mean, the truth is that a lot of like Trump voters like rely on those subsidies to keep their health insurance premiums down, which was of course like one of the things that caused Marjorie Taylor Greene to break with Trump, right? In the shutdown. So people are feeling this. And it's really, really hard for them to kind of explain it away. It's really hard to blame it on Biden or the Democrats right now. And healthcare is just kind of like one of those things that really will worry a person, right? About, especially if you're sick or someone in your family is sick or somebody who is sick. So these are the things that like they've walked into, the rakes that they've stepped on, metaphorically speaking. And you can see it now. You can see, if you look at the sort of the more sycophantic figures of the MAGA media machine, of the MAGA cinematic universe, as Sarah Longwell at the Bulwark calls it. Like Benny Johnson, for example. His Pollyanna of the situation is just it's Baghdad Bob level now. Like it's like hilarious. Like I feel like I'm watching like a comedy when I listen to Benny Johnson sort of spin this stuff, right? There are no American troops in Baghdad. It's at a point where it's very clear they have no narrative control. Like, they like one of the things that I notice, because I'm really attuned to sort of social epistemology, like given sort of like what I'm really interested in terms of my sort of like intellectual pursuits, is the dynamic of the public conversation has really shifted, right? The right has kind of been setting the conversation for a long time, right? I would say that for almost the entirety of the Joe Biden presidency, after the Afghan withdrawal, after what happened with the disorderly withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan and the air base there. I think the right, the reactionary right, has sort of had control of the public conversation. Even like the trans issue, for example. Like we were talking about the trans issue, and some aspects of the left, right, were reacting to that because of the sort of like aggressive challenge, and there was sort of this reactionary loop. But it was something that the culture warriors on the right were very much trying to keep on the front burner, right? And then and everyone now knows this ad that Donald Trump ran, and the dying days of the 2024 presidential election, right? That she's for they, them, and he's for you, right? And that was like that's like they needed that, right? Like that was their distraction technology that they were deploying. And the right's been really effective at that, really effective at keeping the public conversation in those places where they can generate like a bunch of sort of discomfort, and that's your sort of libs of TikTok phenomenon. And the problem the problem that they have now, right, is that regardless of, say, like what people think about the trans issue, or what they might think about like whatever liberal excess, like liberal, like Marxist prosecutors in San Francisco, which isn't really a thing anymore. San Francisco, in fact, did have a very Marxist prosecutor prosecutor and Chesa Boudin. Like that was a thing. And they have somewhat more of a centrist district attorney there now. But like, I mean, these sort of cultural distractions that the right was really able to keep the national conversation centered on aren't working anymore. They're just not working anymore. People don't want to fucking talk about that. They don't want to talk about they don't want to talk about the trans issue. I mean, they've sort of, I think there's like a issue polling now shows that like border security and immigration has sort of like fallen to only like 7% of Americans now like think that that's like an important like sort of like issue to be solved. It's now like universally two things: economy and democracy. Is what when you look at sort of the issues polling, that's what Americans are saying they're worried about right now. So basically, the culture war weapons that the right has gotten really comfortable deploying in order to contain the cultural conversation, and Donald Trump has been really adept at exploiting, this, it just isn't working. Which brings us to Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York. What shall I say about the man? And his journey to the White House, right? Yeah, I'm just sorry. I mean, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts and think about how to approach this. Because I mean, on one hand, I'm just so, like I said at the outset of this monologue that I'm now giving you, very much off the cuff. I've written no script. I'm just talking to you off the cuff. So I'm thinking in real time about how to approach this, because I want to be both serious, but also not lose you in my unbounded sense of existential amusement. But I mean, like, okay, let's just do it. I mean, like, it's pretty funny, right? Like at some level, that Zohran Mamdani, who most centrists, I'm a centrist, by the way. I'm a centrist, by the way. I mean, this will bother people for me to say, and we could talk about that, but like, but for centrists, and by the way, centrist doesn't mean I don't support like what like doesn't mean I don't support like some of the things that Zohran is looking to do. I one of the things I think that, and we should talk about centrism one of these days, and like what I think centrism is and why I think centrism is a virtue. Centrism is not splitting the difference between the far left and the far right. That is not what centrism is. If you think that's what it is, you have a very impoverished view of the concept. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Actually, we won't come back to that at all. Guys, I told you we're not going to get. I'm going to try and minimize the philosophy today. We'll get back to that in a future Substack live. But you can tell I like to talk about it. I have to catch myself. So the centrists are very we're very sure of themselves that Zohran was basically unelectable, essentially. That if Eric Adams like dropped out, that like it was a foregone conclusion that the sort of the moderate center left, center right alliance of New York City would come together and deliver us a Mayor Cuomo on January 1st of 2026. That was the conventional wisdom, like inside the centrist commentariat, right? This sort of electability theory, based on the sort of belief that Zoran's views vis-a-vis Gaza, Zoran's views vis-a-vis economics, exist outside this conceptual Overton window that many people in the centrist establishment occupy. They're wrong about both of those things, and it's strange to me that they don't realize that they're wrong, because it's not hard to dismantle one's biases here by looking at reality in a way that that simply accepts, what your eyes are seeing and ears are hearing, which is that a strong majority of Americans think Israel has gone too far with Gaza. This is shown in poll after poll after poll after poll. On economic issues, 70 to 80% of Americans, and you can go look this up. Ask ChatGPT this when we're done, or Perplexity, or whatever AI research tool you want. But like, this is just true. 70 to 80% of Americans, that many Americans, believes that we should tax billionaires more, which includes almost half of Republicans. This is true. You may think that's hard to believe given what Republicans in Congress did with the big beautiful bill. You may think that's hard to believe based on what you hear Republican leaders saying, but poll after poll after poll after poll shows almost like half of Republicans support raising taxes on the wealthy. Seriously, go look this up for yourself. I shit you not. And this, which brings us back to the culture war, because that is actually the role that the culture war serves for the right, is to get people to say to themselves, yeah, I might be one of those people that wants to rein in these economic royalists, these, as FDR might say, these economic elites. But man, I don't want trans people in my bathroom with me. That's the game. That's the whole ball game. It's the game that Barry Weiss is either advertently or inadvertently playing into at the Free Press, and is probably trying to inculcate at CBS News. We'll see where that goes. But like, it's not working. It's not working. That's the thing that needs to be sort of underscored, which gets to my sort of view that Trump is collapsing, right? Because normally in before all of this went down, like before the shutdown, before the whole Epstein thing, before all these embarrassments, the Republicans were really good at turning the page, at changing the conversation, but people aren't turning the page anymore. They're like saying, actually, no, I want to stop and read this. I want to read about this Epstein thing. I want to read about these tariffs because they seem to be pushing my prices up. I want to read about this healthcare thing because our healthcare premiums doubling. and that has caused this rendezvous between what I call the simulation. I once said the simulation is collapsing with reality. And the right doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do. Like, for the first time in a long time, the right, whose rallying principle for the last 10 years, right, since Obama was elected in 2008, so more than 10 years, quite a bit longer than 10 years. And And I mean this really started in the second Bush administration, which was basically a organizing principle in the Republican Party that said that despite our differences on the right, despite the fact that I'm just a fucking greedy capitalist who actually supports gay marriage and some of these things. I don't want to live in a society with fascists, but but fuck, I mean, even though there's some fascists in this party, and then some religious people who are sort of like, yes, like even though Donald Trump is a serial adulterer and moral reprobate, I just the left is the greater threat. We just can't let the left govern, because whatever it is, they'll raise our taxes for the economic elite. They'll let women abort their pregnancies discordantly with some religious or natural law perspective on the matter. Unacceptable. Men will call themselves she. Men will call themselves he. Dogs and cats will be living together, and this will be chaos upon which civilization will certainly crumble. That this will be the end. This will be Sodom and Gomorrah. Should we allow the left to reappropriate the reins of power? This we all agree on, from Charlie Kirk to Ben Shapiro to Nick Fuentes. We agree on that. And that's the agreement they made, right? I mean, seriously, I mean, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, that's the thesis of the Republican Party. And a thesis like that sows the seeds of its own destruction, because I mean, and it at some point the Ben Shapiros of the world are going to be going to be forced into the position, as they now are, of recognizing that they're sharing a political coalition with people that would send him to a gas chamber. And appropriately, Ben Shapiro is freaking out about it. I mean, better late than never, Ben. Better late than never. So, I mean, this is the fragile foundations upon which the right-wing coalition was built, and upon which, Donald Trump's power depends. So when you look at it from say that angle, I mean, I'd rather be us than them right now, like, actually, right? I mean, and we can talk about like long term what I think the dangers are. But one should meditate on this observation I've just left you with here. But there are many more. It gets worse for the right, guys. Don't worry. I'm gonna have you in a state of absolute Pollyanna by the end of this, aren't I? I'm giving you guys too much hope. But and we'll talk about what you should do with that hope before this is done. The corruption. Like the deals that Donald Trump has been doing, right, with the Saudis. The Saudi conference, economic conference, like, that was another example of something that many people in MAGA world were just like, what the fuck is going on? These people hate the Saudis. They like, for good reason, actually. Uh, and that is just like another like just insane fissure. And the recognition, I think, the increasing recognition by many on the right that Trump is selling this country out to people that they hate, and they're really struggling to deal with the cognitive dissonance that exists in that sort of conscious field where you have to bring on board this notion simultaneously that Donald Trump is selling you out. And he is selling you out. He's selling you out, MAGA. I mean, I hope you're waking up to this now. He's selling us all out as Americans. If you're an American citizen, he's selling you out. And like the increasing majority of Americans that recognize this to be the case, and you know, a growing number of Republicans too. And those concerns are, I mean, they run deep, right? I mean, this deal with the Saudis and the UAE, with like AI chips, like the AI chip deal is with the United Arab Emirates, and then also the F-35 Lightning II fighter deal with Saudi Arabia, which is, you know, I mean, I mean, the F-35 is our most advanced fighter jet. It was developed as part of the Joint Strike Fighter program, alongside like many of our allies. Major parts of the Joint Strike Fighter program, the F-35 program, were developed by major allies like the United Kingdom, major partner, France, Germany, Italy, Canada, major Turkey, major sort of partners, and one of the problems with giving the F-35 and all of its crazy, like, top secret, you know, NATO, like technological advantages, like vis-a-vis China, is that Saudi Arabia is friendly with the United States, but they're also a Chinese ally. And I have a bridge in Riyadh to sell you if you think that us handing over F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia does not end with Chinese intelligence engineers being given a walkthrough in a hangar at an air base, you know, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I mean, I'm sure the Chinese would pay, would would make some irresistible promise to the Saudis, to the House of Saud, to Mohammed bin Salman for that opportunity. I mean, for fuck's sakes. And by the way, I mean, like Republicans, like Republicans who aren't stupid, right? Like Republican senators, know this and agree with me on this, by the way, and privately worry about it. So, I mean, these things just add up and make it harder and harder for, you know, the MAGA coalition to hang together. And the Epstein stuff, which Americans increasingly care more and more about, especially MAGA voters, just, you know, raises the temperature on Trump's, you know, like liability factor. The fact that he's in his second term, the fact that he constitutionally cannot run for a third. And you run all of these things up against sort of the the counterfactual theory, which is that like MAGA will just excuse all of this, like they always have. I mean, I don't think so. Not this time. It's like Trump looks like he's backed into a corner here. By any reasonable stretch of the imagination. And the question is now, like, given Trump's well understandable, like one well understood psychology at this point, like Trump's not that really like that hard to read and predict if you stop treating him like a normal human being and just sort of assume that you just assume a few things, that sort of like his understanding of the world is like is like a reality show, that his view of the world, like the way that he like the his mental model of the world is shaped by cable news, and that is like what is real to him, like that is his like epistemic environment. And you just like take that and you're just like, that's just like just how his brain works, which it is. And you recognize that what he wants more than anything in the world, like what is lingering at the bottom of his soul, is his daddy issue, his need to be loved. His need to be loved because his daddy didn't love him. I'm serious. I mean, you want to know, I mean, this is just the truth. I mean, and it's, you know, it's tragic from some cosmic vantage point. But, you know, this man will consume the entire universe in search of that unrequited love. That's his psychology here. And it explains like why like he reacted so well to Mamdani, right? Because he's like actually like quite a shallow figure, right? Mamdani is like a happy warrior. You know, he almost certainly did the thing that a personality type like Mamdani does, which is to engage in validation without agreement. Validation without agreement. That's what Mamdani does. And that works on people like Trump. That works on narcissists because they're really predisposed to hearing what they want to hear. And when they hear what they want to hear from people who they perceive as popular, they want some of that. They want some of that narcissistic supply. This is how Trump's brain works. I'm explaining it to you right now, so you know. Maybe you think I'm talking out of my ass, but I promise you I'm not. This is how his brain works. Validation without agreement. Someone says, please give me an example of validation without agreement. Oh, this is easy. It's simple. It's simple, right? This is what therapists do. It's what therapists do. Like, you know, or it's what or a hostage negotiator, right? Imagine a hostage negotiations procedure, right? A hostage negotiation. So you got the hostage taker is like out of his mind. And he's like, I'm really angry. I'm really angry right now. And I'm gonna shoot the hostages if you don't give me a nuclear bomb right now. This is the time when one must occupy the echelons of emotional intelligence and understand the human mind, its need to be seen, to validate without agreeing. To which Mike, stepping into the hostage negotiator role, being really, really calm about it, saying, Tom, I hear you. I hear your anger. I hear you're really, really angry, and I hear I am we hear that you want that nuclear bomb, Tom. We hear you. And we have people looking into that right now. We're looking into it, Tom. Um, and I just want you to stay here with me. I want you to tell me more about how you feel right now. Keep talking to me, Tom. I'm here. I'm here for you. Validation without agreement. I hear what you're saying. I understand why you're angry. Um, we're looking into the nuclear bomb thing, but like we're doing no more than that. We're not actually saying that we might give it to you. Validation without agreement. This is what someone like Mamdani does really effectively. And so, I mean, this is, I mean, this is how you manipulate Donald Trump. Hopefully that little bit of sort of behavioral psychology pedagogy was helpful for you there. I'm not a behavioral psychologist, but I am what I would say I am is a I am learned in the skills of persuasion and human and argument. But I seek to use these skills to reveal, not conceal the truth. Moving on. So this is how Donald Trump's brain works. And that like is like why like it happened that way. That's Trump's psychology. And the other thing that Trump does, and he learned this from Ray Cohn, right? We know that this is a well-known part of Donald Trump's formation as a human being. He said, you never apologize, and you create spectacle, distraction. When people are sort of focusing in and on noticing the truth of your lies. This is what Trump does. I mean, he does it very deliberately, and he's really good at it. A lot of theory. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, people who study propaganda can talk to you all about this, but that's what he does, and so this goes back. I mean, I don't know if you guys read the piece I wrote, and if you haven't, you should. A short victorious war, which talking about my worries about the situation in Venezuela. So like this was an example that kind of came out of Tsarist Russia in the early 20th century, pre-revolutionary Russia. The idea of sort of starting a short victorious war, just like that allows you to sort of like create this victory party, like let's go and conquer this country, depose its regime whose interests are maligned against us. And when we do that, we'll be, I'll be a hero. I will have liberated, in this case, Venezuela and the regime in Caracas, by removing the man who currently occupies Miraflores Palace in Caracas, Maduro. I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried that his instinct is going to be to start a war there, to distract from all those things that we were talking about. I think that I also think it's likely, given what we're seeing. But I also think it will be his undoing. Like we see this in poll after poll after poll. There's no appetite among the American people for starting a war with Venezuela. Like not like Republican, like even the MAGA base is like completely like against it. Like I think like this is, I mean, if he starts a war with Venezuela, we might actually see anti-war protests that have both woke liberals and MAGA people at the same protest. No, serious. Like I'm not joking about this. Like I think that if he does that, he will fracture something in the political dynamic of this country. Um, especially like given how things are, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene like is like kind of like showing you like the first signs of those cracks. Um, and I expect that there will be more, quite frankly. But I mean, but we shouldn't step away from how dangerous that still is for the world. I mean, it could be very geopolitically destabilizing. It could lead to sanctions against the United States. It could really push some of our allies to take drastic steps diplomatically with us. That could impact our economy, could drive the entire world into a global depression. I mean, these are actual real risks that we are living with right now that most people aren't thinking about, do not understand, but are very real and plausible, given everything I've said about the psychology of Donald Trump and um, and sort of his like default program that he has in his brain for escaping situations like this. Um, we could find ourselves in like catastrophe. Sparks a global crisis. It could also be the thing that leads to a world war. Not because like Venezuela's allies among other authoritarian nations will come to their aid, but because what could very well happen, and this is very serious, is that um with America suddenly committed to a war in the Caribbean theater, and America, and almost certainly you can't imagine Canada and the European Union and Australia and Japan and South Korea like signing on and endorsing this. Like you can just, all of these American allies are almost certainly going to protest the United States starting a war in Venezuela for actually these reasons, not because they're pro Maduro. And and because and honestly, like not even because of like what the leaders of those countries think, but because like, I mean, if Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, were to do anything else, he's going to be facing anti-war protesters in Canada. If if the the governments in Europe, in the European capitals, do anything other than express disapprobation for such a measure and demand some kind of response, some termination of intelligence sharing with the United States, like which some of it just already happened actually. Potential fractures in NATO, with sort of like like military integration with the United States. Like European capitals, like Keir Starmer, like he could be facing like massive anti-war protests from the left. And he's already weak, right? In the United Kingdom, right? And like losing sort of the sort of the labor, the anti-war left that of which like he captures much of the vote of, right? With, I mean, just thinking through these political dynamics. See, this is what a sophisticated political analysis is, as opposed to sort of the shit that you see on like CNN every night. But um, I mean, this leads to a perception of weakness by Beijing. This fractures, the alliance. This could be the thing that makes China go, let's invade Taiwan right now. that could be a World War III spark. And you might say that won't start World War III, Mike, because Trump's not going to defend China. He's not going to defend Taiwan. Well, then I might say, well, I think in that world, Trump's being impeached and removed. Someone else is being put in that place. That person, maybe they're more responsible. Maybe they realize that like America's interests in Tokyo and in Seoul, in in Indonesia, and also our interests. I mean, like we are like we rely on Taiwan, right, for our semiconductors, right? TSMC, right? Taiwan Semiconductor. We need them for our advanced chips. A lot of and we're in a fucking AI race with them, and that which could be dispositive, right, to who ends up with the most influence in the world, autocracies or democracies. So if you think China invading Taiwan is likely to be a containable event, which Z may view as, existential necessity from his view. I mean, he's facing increasing destabilization, within the country. I mean, they have like youth unemployment now is like up like in the up nearly 30%, under 25 in China. There's been like protests. You have like the lying down movement. I mean, they stopped publishing data on this in China because it's really, really bad. They've had protests that have broken out that have in some of the outer tier cities. If you think Xi Jinping might not be capable of making the calculation at a moment when the United States goes to war with Venezuela, that now might be the time to press his luck on Taiwan, given sort of his priority of like self-preservation, like vis-a-vis like revolutionary risk inside of China and existential risk outside of China. Guys, if you're not scared of China invading Taiwan, leading to a nuclear war, you don't understand how the world works. You really don't. So, that's my my assessment of where we are as of this Sunday. Like I said at the beginning of this, I was going to give you a bunch of hope, but then I was going to make sure that you think about using that hope properly, because this is not going to be some magical return to normal. I promise you that. I come not to scare, but to inform, and to remind you, as always, that that the wire still holds, right? If we choose to walk it, which is what I'm trying to do here with you. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on this Sunday from Southern California, here in Los Angeles, on this November 23rd, 2025. Good night, everybody, and have a good week, and I'll see you out there.